want to review the sample practice exam you have. I don't know if you received the answer key from Jack. I do not have one, but hopefully I did not make too many mistakes in my work. So for number 1, you're supposed to select which of the following statements about linear correlation coefficient are true. So with number 1, I said yes, that's true. The linear correlation coefficient for two variables is 0, then there's no relationship. And you can check page 497. Look at those bottom 4 scatter plots, and you'll see number C, there's no correlation, R is 0. Number 2 says the slope of the regression line is negative, then the linear correlation coefficient is negative. And that's true. So if the slope of a line is negative, it's going to go in that direction. And you can look at B with the negative correlation on page 497, and the R is negative there. The correlation coefficient will be negative if there's a negative slope of the regression line. So 1 and 2 are correct. 3 and 4 are not correct. For 3, we have the value of the linear correlation coefficient always lies between -1 and 1. But that is not true. It's inclusive, so that means R is between -1 and 1, or it could equal -1 and 1. We say it's inclusive when it includes the boundaries here. So 3 is not correct. And 4 is not correct because 0.62, a positive 0.62, does not suggest a stronger linear relationship than a -0.82. Even though this number is negative, it's closer to the -1. So it's closer to having a -1 complete correlation than the 0.62 does. Okay, problem number 2. Okay, we're given that R is 0.353 and N is 15. So with N 15, and I also have alpha as 0.05. So from these two values, I can look from the table A6, table A6, and find the correlation coefficient. For this, I will get, let's see, 0.05 and 15, I get 0.514. And these values are plus and minus. So I have those as my critical values for R. Then I need to determine whether or not there's a linear correlation. So I'm given that, let's see, I'm given the test statistic is 0.353. So I compare my test statistic to the 0.514 of the critical value. And I get that the R test statistic is less than the R critical value. And that implies that I fail to reject the null hypothesis. And I forgot to put here, but the null hypothesis, we talk about rho, which is the kind of a Greek letter looking like a P. P equals 0. That's our null hypothesis for these tests. Our alternate is P does not equal 0. If P equals 0, our null is that there's no correlation. So we fail to reject that. So therefore, H1 would imply correlation. We fail to reject no correlation. In a sense, we say there's not sufficient evidence to support the claim of a linear correlation. So that would be answer C. The critical values are plus or minus 0.514, and there is no significant linear correlation.